I've previously spoken about the hyperbole of genocide happening in the US. And it's one of those things that's tied to a lot of other things. For example, the way that they catastrophize and make it seem as if suicide is the only way out of transitioning. If you don't transition, you will commit suicide. And so, in fact, it tunnels people down this path of, if I don't get these drugs, if I don't get surgery, I will kill myself, so I might as well just do it. And you can definitely see that same path here. And I think that, I mean, you go online, you see plenty of TikToks of people, literally 15-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 50-year-olds, all saying the same thing. The United States is doing a genocide against trans people. No, they're not. But the fact is, there are some people who have taken it so far that they've left the country. Robin Coyer decided that they had to leave the United States as soon as the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This is despite Coyer being male. Coyer is transgender and non-binary, and they saw the national right to abortion as the canary in the coal mine. Soon, they thought the country would attack LGBTQ communities with renewed vigor. This article, Trans U.S. Citizen Goes to a German Asylum Camp, is titled, "I'm Trans, and I fled the U.S. because I feel unsafe." So today I want to go through this article with you and just point out exactly how delusional some people are to not only leave the United States because they're afraid of being genocided as a white male, to take a spot at an actual camp for refugees who are facing actual oppressions and genocides, and then to create an article about it wherein he assumes that he is in the right, that people will say, yes, that's the right move to make. So let's go ahead and read through this article and discuss. I have known that I have needed to leave America for a long time, but I officially made the decision when the American Supreme Court brought down the ruling that eliminated a person's rights to terminate pregnancy. My first objection is that this is a white male, who did not lose anything when Roe v. Wade was overturned. It is impossible for him to become pregnant and to need an abortion. Now, the thing that I really, really hate is that people lump in abortion with every other issue, because abortion is a vaguely left-wing issue, and so is drag queens, and so is transgenderism. They all get lumped into one little package, and they have nothing to do with each other. Abortion has nothing to do with being trans, and it has nothing to do with you being a male. Just the audacity of pretending that this actually affected you in any way, shape, or form. You're not the one who can't get their medication because there's a possibility that you might be pregnant and might have an accidental abortion because of it. You're not affected by this in any way. I made the decision very quickly because I felt like I was imminently in danger. There are plenty of good people in America, but there are plenty of people who just want to straight up kill us. Once again, an exaggeration, because there are no laws on the books saying that they're going to go kill or round up or follow any of the actual steps outlined for genocide. What is currently being legislated is the ability for minors to see drag shows, which are adult sexual entertainment, and to access hormones and surgery, which, yes, does happen, because many detransitioners have spoken out about the very easy way they got hormones and surgeries while they were minors, and now suffer and regret from the consequences. So, again, another exaggeration. So I left America on August 17th, 2022. I've been living with my mom since I was born. The night before I left, I had been trying to sleep in the recliner of the common room. My mom had been watching TV there. I had not yet fallen asleep, but I heard the TV go off. I heard her start to cry. She felt me doing this was a very expensive way to die by suicide. I assured her that doing this was my alternative to suicide. I told her, if I stay in America, I will commit suicide because I'm terrified of what the bigots would do to me. I just want to note that this adult man, has never lived on his own. And I'm not going to make any other comments on that, except just noting that he mentioned this, that he has never lived away from his mother. Moving on, he mentions that he's actually not in any actual danger. He's just afraid that he might commit suicide because he's afraid of what other people might do to him. That is entirely irrational, and, in fact, seems to me to be a sign of mental illness, because you aren't in any actual danger here. You aren't. You are afraid of a hypothetical mob that does not exist. There are no turfs with pitchforks. There are no conservatives going out there and hunting down men who wear dresses. None of this is happening. It is literally all in your head. and yet this is justification for him to start the process to immigrate to Germany. I made the decision to go to Denmark initially because I knew I just wanted to go to Europe in general. There's also someone I care about there and figured there'd be one face I knew. I wanted to hopefully take some time to find a job there and immigrate via work visa before going to what was basically my main plan, asylum. After looking generally at Denmark's overall government, it seemed like everything I could really want. Eventually, I learned that their immigration and asylum policies are extremely restrictive. I didn't really have much chance of making it in Denmark, and everyone said that Germany would be my best of chances. On September 8th, I took a train to Berlin, Germany. I took a taxi over to the receiving area for asylum seekers. Once I had said the words, "I'm applying for asylum," they took me in and started the process. I was put in a camp for asylum seekers. Luckily for me, I had a room to myself, despite all the rooms being made with 4 beds in them, probably because I arrived on my own. Or, more likely, because they did not know where to put you, because typically they have the camps divided by origin or by the reason for asylum. And white guy from America who claims that he's in need of safety because he's transgender non-binary is not someone they typically, if ever, have received before, because, hello, it's an absurd claim. So not only has he taken the space that someone actually needing asylum could have had, but he's taking the beds of 3 other people who could have been housed there. There's literally genocides going on today. Literally going on today. There is so much civil unrest. There are women and children in the Middle East who could have this place. There are people in Africa who could have come here because they're actually at risk of being harmed because they are homosexual. But no, white guy from America who has all the privileges that comes with being white guy in America, he gets those. All 4 beds, just to himself. It was very difficult at times to get some of my basic needs met. When first beginning the process of asylum, I allowed myself to break down for a bit. For the most part, though, it was good people. The housing was humane, the nutrition was somewhat minimal, but it was enough. I kept to myself largely, but I did try to make some kind of friends in the courtyard. Being the big gamer that I am, I still had some extra money at the time. I went out and bought some tabletop games from the local market and set them up in the courtyard. I just want to reiterate, the reason why you were able to purchase frivolous things, toys and whatnot, is because you were not actually a refugee who is running from their home country because they're being persecuted or in imminent danger. You are a tourist who is taking up the bed of someone who actually could have been there to save their life. I want to mention that. Like, you're really comparing all these numbers as if this is like some kind of camp to you, some vacation. It's not. This is a place where people go because they're in danger of dying, which you, very obviously, are not. I stayed in Berlin for about 3 weeks. When I arrived, I had to surrender my passport. I still do not have this passport. As long as I'm in the system, I'm not allowed to have my passport. They told me that different cities were set up for people from different countries, and this camp in Berlin was not set up for people in America. I have to assume none of them really were. The concept of an American coming for asylum in the first place is inconceivable to them, I think. When I told that this camp was not set up for my situation, I learned, with little notice, that I was being sent off somewhere else. I was told to leave right now, right away. From Berlin, I went to Karlsruhe for a single night. The conditions were horrible. It literally felt like a prison. I was then put on a bus to Sigmaringen. When I made it to Sigmaringen, they asked for my passport, which I obviously did not have, so I told them that they would be able to get it from their colleagues in Berlin. They eventually accepted my American driver's license, so basically I don't have any form of identification other than what they've issued to me. Once again, this is a problem of your own making. Like, you made this issue. You can easily go to the U.S. Embassy, and they have protocols for if you don't have your passport. You have a social security number, which can be used to identify you. And presumably you remember the numbers for your passport and your ID. So if you really wanted to go home, it wouldn't be very hard to do so. You're just choosing to basically play act at being a refugee. You're play acting at victimization, because I guess what, being a victim is fun for you? When I was there, I made sure to let people know that I am LGBT. I probably was even wearing my shirt, one of my favorite shirts, that literally has a heart of transgender flag colors on it. I let them know that I'm LGBT because I know that LGBT people are persecuted throughout the world. That's true, to an extent, except Here's the thing. Transgender people are accepted in those same countries that have homosexuality as a crime punishable by death. Iran literally prefers homosexual people to transition to appear straight than to just let homosexual people exist. So no, you are not the same thing as someone who's actually running from a country that would kill them for being homosexual. Not the same thing. They said between the status and the medication that I take, Sigma and Jim was not properly equipped to help me, so they were sending me over to Tübingen, where people are much more capable of helping me. That happened in mid-October. At Tübingen, the camp provided me with medication that I needed. There is an LGBT community I'm connected with, so I pretty much had everything. In that particular camp, there are basically 2 houses where people live. We had breakfast at either 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., lunch at noon, and dinner at 5. Day to day, I woke up and went to get breakfast at 8. Usually at least once per week I had to go to the sanitation, which is where their medical stuff is in. I had to request a refill of medication because they only gave me about 2 weeks worth of medication at a time. But that sanitation is also where I could arrange appointments with a doctor for my physical or mental health. I'm on all the same medications: bupropion, guanfacine, estradiol, and spironolactone. I was briefly taken off Spiro because I had a rather severe case of gastroenteritis over the weekend. I just got connected with a general doctor. He examined me and found that I can safely resume it. At Tübingen, the German language class started up at 2 p.m., but otherwise I was pretty much left to myself. Sometimes I'd hike over to a nearby library, and I was able to get a card that allowed me to access their computers. When I was in my room, I was doing things on the internet on my phone, which could be anything as essential as applying for jobs, or as casual as just playing my games. There's a tabletop gaming group that meets in the library every Thursday night. I made sure to never miss one of those. There is no real undercurrent of fear in any of his stuff, and I want to note that the article that I'm reading is from Vice, which they edited this for clarity and the length, and you can still hear how it dawdles on and on. It's like vanity. It's like staring into a mirror. None of this stuff is actually important to the topic he's trying to discuss, and none of this actually convinces a reader, a neutral reader, not one who's primed to disagree like I am, I suppose, that he's actually in danger and doing the right thing. What it's doing is it's illustrating his privilege to be able to treat this like it's summer camp and not like he's leaving the only home he's ever known for an uncertain and unknown future. I've been at that spot for 3 months. I was transferred to a house in Dittenhausen with 2 housemates. One speaks Russian, one speaks Arabic. None of us know the other's language, and we're all trying to figure it out together. This whole thing feels like the setup of a sitcom. I was given about 480 euros to last me through February, and a bunch of it went towards establishing basic necessities here, like cleaning equipment and dinnerware. Now my budget is stretched so very thin, basically 8 euros per day to spend on food. It's going to take a lot of discipline to get through this, but we're all helping each other. I definitely want to work as soon as possible. The next step of this whole relocation process is that I'm supposed to be interviewed by someone and tell them my story. From that, they will make a decision on whether I will be accepted. I've not had this interview. There have been plenty of people who have come after me and got their interview before me, though, and there's been intense pressure for me to voluntarily return to America. I wonder why that is. It's almost like this is an emperor with no clothes situation where everybody knows, including you, that you're not supposed to be there. It's kind of like looking at, the only duck in a row of swans and wondering what could ever possibly be wrong with this picture. The social workers have been telling me it is just about guaranteed that I'm going to fail in this whole process. I was advised to keep looking for work, so I have been, but I'm not getting any interviews so far. It's been universal rejections. To clarify one point, when it comes time for my interview, I would not be seeking asylum. I would be seeking subsidiary protection, which is an important distinction because asylum is for when you have a more specific threat against you, and subsidiary protection applies to a more general state of things. So, in other words, even he knows that he's not actually seeking asylum from anything. I just want to point that out again, and I also want to point out that if all he wanted was just a vacation, he could have chosen to come somewhere like Asia, or even some places in Europe that Americans can enter pretty easily because you have an American passport. There is immense privilege in having an American passport. And if you really want to leave the US that bad, you could have found a route to do it that could have involved, teaching. That's one of the very easiest ways to get a job outside the country. He could have sought actual work and then moved. If he was serious about moving out the country, he could have found a more plausible way to do it. But instead, he wants the role of victim. He wants to be labeled asylum seeker. He wants the pride that comes with saying, I am a transgender refugee seeker. And that's why everyone in this story is just looking at him like, wow, this guy has his head so far up his ass. I'm astounded. I'm astounded that he gets this far into the article without realizing how stupid he sounds. We've got people from Ukraine who have every reason to be seeking asylum right now. We've got LGBT people from the Middle East, where it's legislated that we are to be killed. They have very good reason to seek asylum. In America, the written law does defend us for the most part, and the only real strength I have for how easy it is for people with motivation to get a gun, even if you're in a blue state to get a gun from a neighboring red state. Despite how bad things are, considering how bad things are elsewhere, it seems like it's going to need to get a lot worse before they will really take our position seriously here. I used to live in Wisconsin, and it's not quite Trump country there, but it's really, really turning into that. So I just want to reiterate that I'm from Georgia. I've been in the deep parts of Trump country. Much of my family lives in the Hicks, and I'm completely out. My whole family knows that I'm gay. No one says anything. It doesn't really matter or affect them. They will often commiserate with me on some of the trans or gender issues because, I mean, come on. You're going to tell a 60-year-old black woman that there's no reason that a man should be in the bathroom with her. It's not going to go very well. And the thing is, I've worked for plenty of families that are deeply conservative, and I haven't been someone who flashes my sexuality in contexts that don't require it, obviously. But most of these people just want reasonableness. They're not even focused on this issue until it became an issue. Yeah, there were the people who were moderate or conservative at the beginning, but those who are moderate are shifting away from moderate, from live and let be, because of the exaggerated behaviors, because of the, instead of having, like, I don't know, butch lesbian power hour, we're having drag queen power hour. Instead of, acceptance, we're preaching that you have to take surgeries and ignoring the social contagion factor of transgenderism. The fact that he's legitimately arguing, like, he's admitting to himself, to everyone, that, hey, there actually is no imminent danger, I just feel unsafe. It astounds me, and I know I've said this many times in this video, but it really astounds me that this type of thought, this I am a victim against the world, this centering yourself against everything else language has escaped from the internet to actually affect the people who live in the real world. That he sincerely thinks that this is a normal course of action to take, and one that no one's going to judge him for. It just amazes me that someone could be this self-centered. While in Wisconsin, I did not experience any significant discrimination. There's unfortunately always the bathroom issue, and it always disturbed me that I need to go to that one restroom and I'm not allowed into the other. Other than that, nobody has been directly transphobic with me. When I came out, I did get that, if this is a deal breaker for you, if you don't like trans people, get the fuck off my friends list right now. The only real issue is that most people misgender me. A lot of people make the effort, but at work, plenty of people did not. The people that knew me by my dead name just insisted on calling me that for a long time. They refused to call me by my chosen name, refused to gender me properly, and even once I had my name changed, they still insisted on misgendering me constantly. So, in other words, boo-hoo, other people have boundaries and don't want me in their space because I do not belong in it, and boo-hoo, words are literal violence. Right. That's the justification you're going to give to the German interviewers when they ask why you're seeking asylum? I want to see how that goes for you. I have not received any violence over it. Just because I've not experienced violence yet does not mean I won't. I work deep in Trump country, so I have to pass all sorts of people like that. I see all the time how easy it is for people to commit gun violence. To and from work, I constantly see signs about any upcoming gun classes to get a gun license. It's like, you don't necessarily need to have your house robbed to lock your door when you leave. I find the possibility of somebody coming to attack me, whether intentionally or just happen to be in an area filled with other LGBT people, too significant. Especially when the conversation around us being so vilifying. You could apply this idea of the world being unsafe to just existing as a woman. You can apply this to the way that misogyny is literally everywhere, how women's bodies put into cartoonish positions and proportions are used to advertise products, how women themselves are sold as products, how we are taught from the day that we turn, from the day we can't even name, to be afraid. And we we're not trying to claim asylum anywhere because of it. You can't blame the world for giving you a general sense of fear. It's nonsensical to put the idea of there could be violence, therefore it's everyone else's problem. Yeah, I could be murdered by a man on the street. I could be murdered by a boyfriend if I was straight. I could be hurt by my brother or my father or whatever. I could be hurt by an acquaintance. Male violence is far more of an epidemic for women than violence against transgender people is. You are more likely to commit a crime as a transgender person than you are to be the victim of one, especially sexual crimes. I'm trying to understand his perspective here, and it doesn't make any sense from anyone who's well adjusted at the very least. We are now being called, all of us, sexual child predators. You guys, the genderists, are the ones who said that groomer is a homophobic slur. A transphobic slur, too. You guys are the ones who claim that. And every time anyone tries to call out someone in the trans community for sexual crimes, they're told that to do so is to be transphobic. The fact that you're positioning people in sexualized caricatures of women reading to children, that's what you're trying to position as gay history, as gay pride, as representative of the whole damn community. You are the reason why people look at that and they go, what other reason could you have for wanting to dress and act like that in front of children besides a bad one? Not to mention, like I've said before, half of the trans people in prison, the trans women, are there for sexual crimes. That's greater than the male population and the female population. So, if you want to wonder where that accusation comes from, take a look in the damn mirror. So it's very plausible someone that happens to be me is going to be disturbed by something they see on the nerves. The House of Representatives is now under the control of Republicans, and the Speaker appointed extremely hard-right QAnon people to very important committees. So to have people like that in charge of our security really makes me feel unsafe. I was all set to voluntarily return to America under such duress, and only once I heard about the existence of trans sport, I decided to put that on a pause. I contacted that group, and I'm waiting to hear back. The existence of such a group tells me that I'm definitely not the only one who's dealing with this. If this is being organized to help transgender people seek asylum, hopefully there is something they can do to help me in all of this. But I'm likely going to end up back to America, since the only hope I have of making it here realistically is to find a job, and all I can do on that front is apply to places online. I might as well be there and earn income and hope I don't get killed by the bigots. If I go back to America, I will be employed. My old job has agreed to take me back. I have insurance. I can do all the job applications online while in America too. Yet another illustration of his immense privilege. Not everyone has insurance, not everyone has a job they can go back to or a place to live. He can literally decide, today, I'm gonna go back home, and nothing would have changed. He will be welcomed back with open arms into the role he had before. Nothing, no repercussions at all. Compare that to a refugee who is literally leaving behind everything they know for a chance at a safer life. You are not the same thing. You're not. And honestly, again, I don't get why if he wants to leave the US so bad, he didn't just do it the normal way and try to get a job. It is super easy to get hired as a teacher in Asia and Europe for English. All you have to do is apply and have a bachelor's degree and they'll take you. So if you wanted to leave so bad, why not go the actual route that was open to you instead of trying to claim that you're at risk of being hurt when you're not? The main catch is, of course, the whole reason I left in the first place. I think a bigot is going to end up killing me, possibly in a slaughter like what we've experienced at Club Q. Given that I have so much pressure to return as it is, I really hate to say this, but I really sadly have to advise against applying for asylum for the moment until it is extremely obvious that we are in a life-threatening danger. Our lives are going to be hell for a while in America, but it's going to have a significantly more dire than this for us to have a realistic chance. I definitely understand anyone who is terrified as I am and feels like they need to get out. It tears me apart that I needed to do this in the first place. That America is not safe for us. I felt the need to abandon everyone I know and love. The things I am most afraid might come to pass. Maybe they'll come to pass, and the people who have not been able to get out, they'll become victims of all of this. It terrifies me that I'll be rejected and I'll be forced back into America where I need to endure this because Germany does not understand what's going on there. There have been times where it's been very difficult to keep it together. And this is where the article ends. I would like to point out that while this reads like a parody, it's shocking in its authenticity, the fact that this guy actually feels this way. And I'm certain he's not the only one who does. Like, he might be the only guy who decided to actually leave the US and try to claim asylum somewhere. I hope this is something that interests you, because quite frankly, there are so many articles that you can read through that are equally stupid and equally in need of criticism. And unfortunately, it does not lend itself to a visual medium so much. But hopefully it does lend itself to an auditory one, and hopefully you enjoy the background footage I've included for this video. Let me know what you think about this article in the comment section down below. Do you think that this guy... You know what? I don't need to give you any leading questions. You know exactly what you should be saying. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.